When it comes to the features of population census or housing census, and this includes individuals in the population and each set of living quarters are enumerated separately and the characteristics thereof are recorded separately. The government normally divides the population into or the country into quarters, and each and every quarter is taken as a separate entity, where you will not find data in Nairobi or from Nairobi population being mixed up with Kiambu County population, because those are different quarters. You will find different characteristics of people from Kiambu and Nairobi. So it's not good that they are mixed up. They're supposed to be recorded and treated as separate entities, and also the data is needed to be handled separately. You can't compare data that you'll collect in Nairobi to the data that you'll collect in Turkana. You can't mix them. You can't mix them. You have to treat them and record them as well as analyze them as separate entities. So universality within the defined geographical area territory is required, where the population census potentially covers the whole population in a clearly defined territory. So it's when the census is being done, you have to have a universal questionnaire or a universal thing that is equally distributed all through the country, where you can't have a different questionnaire in Turkana and a different questionnaire in Nairobi. It have to be the same questionnaire, but remember, you have to treat the data separately because they represent different types of people from the different territories or from the different living quarters. So it should include every person present or usual resident, depending on whether the type of population count is de facto or de jure. When it comes to a household, you can't say that, for example, if the person, whoever is taking or collecting the data, comes to your household where you normally live and maybe finds the wife and the husband is working somewhere else or is working in the nearest town, you have to collect all the data from the people who normally live and sleep under that roof. You have to collect all the data from every person, either present or either usual resident in that house. So each and every person in that house, whether present at that time or absent at that time, but lives in that house, need to be taken into consideration, or their characteristics needed to be recorded. So in the absence of comprehensive population or administrative registers, if whoever that is manning or whoever is the administrator or the chief, whoever is in charge of a particular village, if they do not have that data, or maybe the data gets lost, the census data can also be used because it is a comprehensive. It normally covers a lot of statistics. So the enumeration has to be as simultaneously as possible. You can't have census being taken in January in Kiambu, then data being taken in December in Turkana. It has to be simultaneously. It has to be collected at the same period of time in all the territories in that country, or in all those living quarters in that country, in order to make sure that any condition that is present is affecting all the individuals. So censuses are usually conducted at defined intervals. Most countries normally conduct their census after every 10 years, as it is in the case in our country, Kenya. Why do we need to take census? Why do we need to practice or to have census each and every 10 years? After each and every 10 years, we have to have census. And this is because it normally provides information on the size of the population in a particular county, in a particular province. Some years back, we used to say of provinces, but now we normally say, or we normally talk about what? Counties. And for us to know that a lot of people are living in a certain county, we have to count them. When we say that a certain county is very poor, we have to use census data. We can't just say they are poor because of just looking at them. We have to conduct a census in order for us to say maybe 10% are the only people who are able to live a better life in a particular county, where the rest 90% are the very poor people living in that county. So all this information is needed, and we have to get this information from the census we normally conduct after every 10 years. And this is the case, or this is the reason as to why right now the Senate is having an argument on the sharing of revenue or sharing of government money, since some counties are saying that they have a lot of people, so they need more money to facilitate the people. Other counties are saying that they have a very big piece of, or their counties are very huge, so they still need some more added money as compared to the smaller one, because they need a lot of money in order to build roads and to build other essential facilities or even services in their counties. So census give information that will direct the country on how to plan itself. How do we plan for a country and we don't know the number of people we are planning for? So you need to have some census or some data that you can use as a basis of planning in future or for future uses. So these census provide information on the size of the population in a country, in a region, then composition in terms of sex or gender, composition also in terms of occupation levels, composition in terms of even economic activities, composition in terms of educational levels, composition in terms of illiteracy. So all this information will be gotten from census. Then we have spatial distribution of the population together with demographic and social characteristics. Spatial distributor, how is this population distributed in the country? Where do we have more people that live in a particular area? Where is this area? Where do we have more people living in Kenya? We have more people in the urban areas, or we do have more people in the rural areas? So this information will guide the government in planning for services. If, for example, we have a county where 70% is women, you have to plan in order for your services to benefit more the women who are more in a certain region. When it comes to, when you have a lot of children in a certain region and you have less children in another region, you will not give a lot of people or a lot of money towards building of schools, providing prenatal and antenatal care services in areas where we have less children. So you have to have this information in order for you to plan for future. And this is the work of the government. So they are also used as sources of sampling frames with some auxiliary information which can be useful for sample selection and estimation of household survey. For example, for you to conduct a household survey, either country-wide, nationwide, or even a county household survey, for you to make up your mind that you need to do a certain household survey, you have to have some information or some data that will guide you to, number one, sample, because you use a sample size in household survey. So for you to gain that sample size, you have to have the initial or the population or the entire population for you to be able to make up a sample. Another thing, census will also give you information on, for example, if you want to conduct a household survey on maybe food security, you'll use census data in order to know which county or which region in Kenya is very poor. And remember, poverty is correlated to what? Food security. So for you to be able to know other factors that are bringing about this food security, you have to have some data from sensors in order to give you a screenshot on the situation for you to go to that area and find more about the situation. So it normally gives or it acts as a source of sampling frame for household survey. Another source of data is administrative records. And these administrative records, they're normally used to gain social statistics that are compiled from various administrative records as byproduct of the administrative process. And this administrative data can be collected from these sources. Number one, we have health statistics, which is normally compiled from hospital records. So health records, whenever you go to a hospital, you have to give out your information. You're asked of your gender, you're asked of your age, you're asked of a lot of information, medical history. So this information is later at the end of the month compiled by the administration of the hospital and then taken to the next level, whether you're dealing with the sub-county, whether you're dealing with the health dispensaries, they normally take their information to the sub-county hospitals, and sub-county hospitals will take to the county offices. So then this is later compiled nationwide in order for example, to know what percentage of people or how many people have been reporting with a particular type of disease, how many people have been reporting with cases of coronavirus, how many people have been, and this is the reason, or this is the source of data that the Ministry of Health is compiling each and every day in order to know how many people in the entire country have contracted or have reported in a particular day with coronavirus, with malaria, with another Ebola, with another type of infectious disease, or even the non-communicable diseases like diabetes. So for us to say that 10% of Kenyan people are contracting diabetes each and every day, so for us to have that information, we have to compile all the data from the entire hospital records in the entire country. And those are health statistics. Another source of administrative data is employment statistics from employment exchange services. In each and every employer, they normally also compile data of their employee, and they give that data to the government, and the government will compile that data. For example, right now, people are saying that 500,000 of jobs have been lost during this time of coronavirus. And for them to have that information, the employer will report that data to the government, and then the government will compile all the data from all the employers in the entire country in order to get the compiled information or compiled data. Then another source of administrative records is vital statistics, and this statistics or this type of data is normally compiled from the civil registration system. And these civil registration systems includes the marriages that are being registered, the deaths that are being registered, the births. Each and every person when a child is born, either in a hospital or even at home, they're supposed to report to the chief. Or when they are in the hospital will take that information that today we have 3 births, 3 children have been born today, and take that information to the civil registry in their county. The divorces, separations, all these are vital statistics, and this is the data that normally is compiled during the various stages of human life. A person is born, then they get married, and eventually they die. So those are the 3, or they can divorce in the process. So those are the vital statistics I'm talking about, or vital data or vital statistics data that I'm talking about. Then another source of administrative records data is educational statistics from enrollment reports of the Ministry of Education. Each and every school must be registered with the Ministry of Education. And the moment you're administered, or the moment you're admitted in a certain school, that your data is normally taken to the Ministry of Health. So this will then be compiled to make data that will have the records for the Ministry of Education in the entire country. So those are the sources of administrative records data that gives social statistics. And the reliability of this data from administrative records depends on the completeness of the administrative records and the consistency of definition and concepts. Completement of health statistics, where we have all the data that is required. Employment statistics, where we have all the data that is required. It is complete data. You're not omitting age, you're not omitting sex, you're not omitting any information that is needed from you. If you are an employer, if you are a civil registry personnel, if you are a person from the educational level. So the reliability of this data will depend on the completeness and consistency of the data. It is therefore necessary to continuously improve and update the systems of recording, compiling, as well as analyzing such data in order for us to have a more reliable data. Then another source of data, or the last source of data, is household surveys. I talked about this in like 3 previous slide. So what is a household survey? This is surveys, or this is an exercise that will act as a source of social information. It can be either social, it can also be clinical information from a particular region. For example, if I want to know the number of people that have lost jobs in Roiro, I'll go to each and every household and ask for that information. If I want to know the number of people that have been infected with coronavirus, I can go to each and every household. If I want to know the number of people that are suffering from anemia, that are suffering from kwashiorkor, that are suffering from marasmus, I'll do a household survey, where I'll go to each and every household and collect the data. So household surveys are key source of data on social phenomenon. They are among the most flexible method of data collection. In theory, almost any subject can be investigated through household survey. You can investigate a lot of things from household survey. If you want to know food security, you have to go to every household. If you want to go and look at the level of illiteracy in a particular village, you have to go to each and every household and collect that data. So a lot of subjects can be investigated using the household surveys. So in sample surveys, part of the population are selected from which observations are made or data are collected, and then inferences are made to the whole population. You're using a sample. You have to use a sample. If you're dealing with 10,000 people in a particular region or in a particular village, you can't collect data from all those 10,000 people. You have to sample. And sampling, you're taking a part of the population and then extrapolating whatever that you get from the sample to represent the entire population. So in sample surveys, part of the population are selected from which observations are made. All data are corrected, and then inferences are made, or this information will be made to the whole population. So because in sample surveys, there are smaller workloads for interviewers and a longer time period assigned to data collection, the possibility of covering most subject matters in greater details than in census. In census, you don't go deeper. You just collect the necessary information. Who is the breadwinner of this household? Where does he work? How much does he have? Such things. But when it comes to household survey, you will have a lot of time to conduct or to collect data from one individual, from one particular individual. So you can use that chance to collect a lot of data from these particular individuals. So because in sample surveys there are smaller workloads for interviewers and a longer time period assigned to data collection, there are possibilities of covering most subject matter in greater detail than in census. So in addition, there is a scope for training field staff for more extensive data collection. So what is the advantages, or what are the advantages of using household survey as compared to census? Number one, the cost of survey is generally lower. Remember, you're dealing with a sample, but the census, you're dealing with each and every individual. So if you're covering the entire county or the entire country, but for the sample surveys, you're just sampling from the different representative or respective counties. And when you sample from the different types or different counties, then you can extrapolate the results to represent the entire population in the entire country. When it comes to census, it requires a lot of money, a lot of people or manpower, a lot of logistical issues. You need cars, you need a lot of fuel, you need money, you need a lot of things in order to conduct a census. So in general, sample surveys provide statistical information of better quality because it is more feasible, because remember it is affordable. Then people are able to collect a lot of data to engage better and well-trained enumerators. Because you're not dealing with a lot of people, you'll use the best trained enumerators to collect the data. So there is a greater scope and flexibility in a sample survey than in a census with respect to the depth of investigation and the number of items in the questionnaire. A questionnaire that is used in sample survey is very detailed as compared to the questionnaire that you use in census. So you will cover or you collect a lot of information, a lot of characteristics. You'll also be able to know about a lot of things from sample surveys as compared to census, because in sample survey you can change the questionnaire. It is flexible to change, but in the census it's kind of very strict or rigid to change because you want a specific information from the population. So information of a more specialized type may not be collected in a census because of the prohibitive number of specialists or equipment necessary to carry out the study. So those are the advantages of households surveys as compared to census. So I hope you're able to find this video and be able to go through the video. And if you have any info or any challenges or even any question, you can just ask through the necessary channels. So all the best, and let's meet next.